Welcome, everybody, to the Dill with It podcast and Clubhouse event. This is episode 4, which we have titled Deep Dive Data Dissection Discussion. Today we're looking at one of the matches between the Johns brothers, Ben and Colin, and Tyler Leung and Spencer Smith. I'm going to post a link to that in my Facebook page at facebook.com/Dill Pickleball so people can take a look at that as they follow along here on the podcast. And really, there's a gentleman on one of the pickleball forums who took a ton of time. He said hours, which I imagine it took way longer than it totally should have, but he dissected every single shot in that match, which was a super exciting match, and kind of came up with some stats. So Vinny and I today are going to take a look at that and kind of see what we can glean from the information. So thanks for joining us here, Vinny.
Yeah. Hey, David. Good to hear you, see you, be on the podcast again with you, I think. I'm pretty excited about what we're going to do tonight. I think it's a little bit of a format flip where we're not just talking about our games, but talking about some really good players' games. So if you're listening, if you can imagine watching Michael Jordan highlights with the guys you play pickup with at your local gym. That's what we're doing. That's who we are. We're going to dissect LeBron James's game from the local 24-hour fitness gym. That's the idea.
Yes. Taking a look here, just kind of if you want to watch the game or watch the match itself, it is going to be in that link that I posted on my Facebook page, so you can see the entire match, which was a super close match. It was 11-9, 9-11, and 11-6 with Tyler and Spencer eventually pulling out the win. So, I mean, it was like nail-biter the entire way through. I mean, points going each way, runs going each way of rallies. It was super, super exciting to watch. So, totally worth the time.
Yeah, definitely worth engaging. If you are a fan of pickleball, and even if you are a pickleball voyeur, if you listen to episode 3, this you could do right from the comfort of your own home.
Perfect.
I mean, this was, you have to be outside or neglecting your own pickleball match to enjoy this level of competition.
So true. So enjoyable. True. Starting with the match highlights, as you guys are following along on that page, on the Dill Pickleball Facebook page. What kind of stood out to you on those match highlights, Vinny, as you look through those numbers?
So there were a couple things. First in particular was just the number of shots per rally. That average of 10.5 seems so much greater than what we're used to in terms of our own play and getting to where we're playing in a regular match. So that was really fun to watch. And then that longest rally of 55 shots. I mean, that was just incredible to watch.
It's crazy to see that, to see how all of the shots were taken there. I mean, it had a little bit of everything in there. That 10.5, we have a Dill Pickleball YouTube channel that you guys can go out and watch our matches and see how we're continuing to progress as we have our pickleball journey going on. We're definitely not averaging 10.5 shots per rally. I mean,
no, we are not.
I think we would probably be anywhere between the 2.5-ish range would be my guess.
Yeah, I think that's probably on it. If we took all the games and averaged them out. Depending on, yeah. Yep.
The other thing, I know that watching the match, and this is what struck me as I was looking at these stats here with the match highlights, only one serve out of 141 was missed the entire match, which to me seems ludicrous. But in watching the serves, I know for me, I try to be a bit more aggressive with my serves to get my opponents a little bit off kilter so that I can put myself in a better position. It's a lot like what I tried to do in tennis, whereas I watch these guys, and it's not necessarily a mixture of spin, power, soft, long, deep, short. I don't see a lot of that. I just see a typical serve that gets in the court so they can play the match.
Yeah, that struck me too, just in terms of a strategy difference than what I've approached the game as well. Like we're trying to get, I'm chasing aces, I think, with my serve. I'm either trying to paint the back line or get that front outside corner, short. But these guys, it was a pedestrian serve almost every time. There's not a ton of spin, not a ton of power, but they're putting the ball in play, and then they're trusting in their rally game or their volley game to get them to the point. They're not chasing that ace like I think that as a trap maybe that I fall into.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely, totally guilty as charged. I like to try and mix up my serves to keep people off balance. Whether it's a couple of deep serves and then a nice soft deep serve and then a short serve and then a spin serve. Right, I try to play that game a lot, and obviously, if I'm watching the best players in the world play, I'm doing it wrong. Or
Right.
I would like to say my serve game has progressed further than the pickleball game currently is. Gives me a little bit of a ooh, look, I'm futuristic, but really what it boils down to is I'm just not that good.
Yeah, or at least taking a different approach to scoring.
Yep.
Depending on the level of play. Yep.
The other thing, looking here in the match highlights, is that there were no around the posts, which I think would have been if there was an opportunity for it. But the big thing that we try is lobs, and there were no lobs attempted during this match.
Yeah, I found that really interesting how much kitchen or non-volley zone line play there was, and the dinking back and forth with strategic positioning.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought for sure I was going to catch a lot, watch a lob in there with some of those shots because everybody's at the kitchen line, or everybody's at that line where it felt like that they'd be susceptible to that strategy, but no attempts.
Yep. Yeah, it surprises me because I feel like it's an effective shot, but I guess when you're able to backpedal and have more than one aggressive move at a time, then I guess it's less effective than it would be on, let's say, me.
Yeah, right. Or I was thinking too, like one of the things when you watch high level athletes, they conserve energy in a way that they will concede to an opponent a shot, right? Like if they know that they're not going to waste energy chasing a shot that they can't get to, they're going to accept the point and come back and reset. And I think in terms of the lob shot, because I think it's lower percentage than some of the dink and dunking game that they were playing, that perhaps that's a reason why they avoided it. It is lower percentage. It doesn't get you anything, even a successful lob, because there's so much time between the ball arcing in the air and landing on the court that an opponent can get back to it and return it, where it doesn't really put you in an advantage if you're able to land it unless you get your opponents out of position.
Yep. Which I feel like they're constantly moving. I mean, obviously you can see that a lot in the thing. They're constantly shuffling their feet, trying to make sure they're in position. And even the people who aren't hitting, or even before the ball is struck, they're they're kind of continually shuffling their feet back and forth to try and get into that position to see and anticipate where the ball is going. So I would definitely agree that, lobbing may not be the best option, because they're probably going to be ready for it and the ball's going to fly at your face.
Yes.
Looking at the player highlights, which is kind of giving the highlights of each person, or if there was a highlight for each person. The thing that kind of initially stood out to me was the fact that Colin Johns, Ben John's brother, only missed one dink out of 135 of them.
Yeah. That was just incredible. That was just incredible to watch. Like, to be able to have that kind of paddle control and touch around the net was pretty marvelous to watch.
Yep.
Very enjoyable.
Yep. What stood out to you in kind of those player highlights?
I think Long not missing a serve or a return. Like, just having 100%. He didn't miss one serve, didn't miss one return. So one of the things that just overall too within the match was the level of focus among each one of those four guys. We touched on a little bit in our last episode and wanting to improve that in our own games, but these guys played with a focus every shot, every point, every match, that there's just a high level of intentionality. And so I think that absolutely reflects on that 100%, return and serve accuracy.
Yeah, it's one of those that it's pretty crazy to think about 100% serves in, which again we talked about kind of how they serve, but even returning and trying to be specific where you want to return. But I still felt like they were being slightly conservative without trying to play the lines too much. Like, it was a little bit targeted, but not necessarily to the extreme of maybe what we tried to be more precise and more extreme in our lines and trying to target specific corners or whatnot.
Yep. Yeah, I think Smith's unforced errors was another thing that caught my attention. Just personally, a thing that I want to continually drive down in my own game is those unforced errors.
Yep.
And so to see that stat, in a game that included, over 1,500 shots between the four players, to only for himself as a player to only have 10 unforced errors, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's insane. And looking at the number of shots that he had, if you look down at the shots taken, he took 58% of the team's shots. So the fact that he only had 10 unforced errors out of 58% of the team shots, and the other number is 29%. So my math isn't all that good, but if we do a little bit of 10%, it was 150. So what he took out of 30% of the total match shots, which is or maybe 450.
Yeah,
my math is terrible. I think it's 450. I mean, 10 were unforced errors. Like, that's just insane.
Yep, it's wild. I might have the inverse. Just 90% unforced error, 10%. Fantastic.
Fantastic.
It reminds me of the old adage from Bagger Vance. One great shot and 3 terrible shots equals par.
Yep.
So that's my pickleball game. 3 unforced errors and 1 fantastic shot. Might get me a point.
Keep
me a match.
Coming back, right?
Yeah, keep me coming back. Yep.
That's funny. Looking at the shots taken, and we're gonna do the shots taken plus the kills to unforced ratio, because I feel like those two kind of go together, which surprises me. I look at Lung's team shots, which is 42%, which is the lower percentage between him and Spencer. Yeah. But looking at his kills to unforced errors ratio, he had a 2.58. So he had 31 kills and only 12 unforced errors, which would indicate he's the quote-unquote better player of the group. Yet you can see that the Johns brothers, were trying to keep it away from Tyler and trying to attack or hit it toward Spencer.
Yep. That was fun. That was neat to watch too. That obvious team strategy as they played the game, or played throughout the match. Yep.
And you can see that as well as with the Johns brothers. You can see that Ben had less shots total in the team than Colin did. Obviously, they're trying to attack the player, and obviously attacking the number 1 player in the world, probably not the best idea.
Yeah. Yep. Seems like that's wise.
Next, looking at the third shots, which I feel like this is probably the stat that is most interesting to really kind of hone in on and focus on and see what we can glean from. I don't know if you've watched a lot of the videos. I'm sure you have on YouTube and whatnot, where it's like, oh, third shot drop. Like, this is what they try to pound into your head. Like, you need to master this shot because it is the shot, which it's an important shot. But looking at these numbers here, I think it tells a different story than what a lot of coaches I've seen on YouTube have been trying to push.
Yeah, I think that the third shot drop is a point scoring strategy, and so it makes sense to teach or to drive that. But if your accuracy or your comfortability isn't there to land it, why not, as it seems like Lung did, hit that drive as a third shot and then reset and play your dink and dunk game and look for the kill. All right, look for that hard driving down the middle, split the player shot, rather than trying to chase something, that you might struggle with, or again, the definition of insanity, continuing to pursue the same behavior, expecting a different result.
Yep. And looking at the numbers again, 93% of Tyler's third shots were drives. That means he hit it hard at his opponents. And he had an effective, which again was the definition that allows their team to improve their position. He had an effective rate of 63%. So 93% drive, 7% drop. 96% of those were in, which again, I didn't see a lot of going for lines, trying to be hitting at the angles. It just seemed like he was just trying to put a drive out there so that he and his partner could approach and be able to get up to that non-volley zone.
Yeah, it's again just interesting to watch some of the better players in the world play, and how some of the strategic specific differences there are in the way that we've approached the game or tried to play to score. So again, fun and excited to get out there and take some things I've learned from watching the game out there and implement my own game.
And I think the other two, I mean, you can look at Ben as well. Ben did 62% drive, 38% drop, and was effective 76% of the time. He hit 86% of his third shots in, which in watching the match, again, it could be just because I wanted to evaluate the numbers. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I felt like he hit more drops, like didn't count versus or missed versus drives that were missed. And then you have Colin and Spencer, who had the lower percentages, and I just see the numbers here. I see Tyler, who had 93% drives, 63%. Ben, who had 62% drives, 76% effective. Spencer, who had 54% drives, was 43% effective. And then Colin, who only had 20% drives, was 51% effective. So half of his shots were effective in helping the team gain position and be able to put themselves in a spot to continue to rally or win the point.
With that higher 80% for Colin, that 80% drop in attempt, right? Like, or the 80% drop shot, to only see a 50% effective rate really flies in the face of some of that coaching we're seeing, or some of that push for the third shot drop.
And it looks, I mean, he's obviously quite effective. Well, I should say he's very good at third shot drops. I mean, he had 96% of his third shots in, and if 80% of them were drops, I mean, obviously he's pretty stellar in the terms of third shot drops and his skill in that regard. But I think looking at the entire match, that's probably the thing that makes me feel better about myself, I guess, is like what I'm doing, like hitting the drives, is it can be effective. I'm seeing it effective on a pro level. And it's something that, yes, I should be able to have all the weapons on my utility belt to be able to pull out and use. But I do see a positive outcome on the drives versus drops for the third shot.
Yeah. It doesn't have to feel like a piece of the puzzle is missing because you're taking a different strategy with that third shot. The third shot drive can be a winning strategy, or let me rephrase, it can be an effective strategy in improving your court position.
Correct. Yes, that's probably the best way to put it. And that's where the kind of, I think it can only get better with stats from here and looking at what it takes in this sport. I think it's going to become more concrete with different stats. I mean, I look at baseball, I look at golf, right? They have huge metrics that determine what actually is the best thing, right? Because I'm a big golfer, and I know you're a big baseball guy. I look at, for golf, and the stats for me, strokes gained is the thing. It's the name of the game, and you try to figure out how to gain strokes versus the field. And that's why you're starting to see people like Bryson DeChambeau, who are crushing the ball 350, 400 yards, because they've discovered that the driving really helps you gain strokes on the field and put you in a position to be able to get closer to the green, which gives you a better shot at the green and gives you a better chance to make birdies and eagles. So in baseball, what are you seeing for stats as you watch the game, as you basically loved the game for so long? How does stats impact players and organizations?
I think that there's a couple that have shaped baseball, particularly, and that's probably a whole nother podcast episode. But the biggest one, like people watching the game would see, is the defensive shift. So you take the analytics have come into play, and they allow you to understand how a player hits the ball and to what direction and position of the field, and then you are shifting your defensive position based on the majority of where he's putting the ball into play. And so you'll see, your third baseman almost play shortstop or more in the second baseman's position. Your second baseman move to behind to cover the gap between first and second, and just everybody shifted over, depending on the area of the field, left to right, where that hitter is hitting the ball. And so that's affected the game defensively, and reduced batting average where, as soon as guys figure out how to bunt again, you can eliminate that as an alternative. But again, I'm drifting into the other podcast episode, but like that's a metric that has changed the way the game is played. And I think you're right. As pickleball continues to progress, as guys put in the time to do this kind of deep analysis and produce these kind of results, we're going to see the strategies begin to develop and play out.
Yep. I know that Moneyball was also a big thing,
huge.
right?
Yep.
It was a whole movie. So obviously it was all about stats and batting averages and, basically trying to figure out what the average baseball player that you're trying to get produces and putting the team together based on that. So
that's the other one, the on-base percentage. That might be an equivalent one to percentage of effective third shot style. Might be an on-base percentage equivalent to the on-base percentage. What is for baseball, what is the most effective in producing runs? So it became about on-base percentage and getting guys on the bases, Moneyball. In pickleball, it might be what is the greatest percentage of effective court positioning in terms of third shot strategy? Is it the drop? Is it the drive?
Is it something else that no one's thought of yet, right?
Yeah, it's legit.
That's the beauty of this game, right?
Yeah, it's so new.
It's so new, and you can continue to evolve in the game and see exactly what's going on. I think that different players can play different strategies, and that's where I see it more like golf, right?
Yep.
And looking at, you have people who don't hit it long, but who have fantastic short games. You have people who really hit it long and have terrible short games, and obviously the winner is usually somebody in between who has decently long and decently. A decent short game.
Yep.
And so I think that you can play your game, play your strategy, and people have to be prepared for that because you're competing against them, which makes it obviously a little different than golf than let's say baseball, who you have to actually prepare and see. Who's batting, and what the defensive shift will be because you see who's up at the plate.
Yep. Yeah. I think even in our own small group community of pickleball players, like we've seen some of that stylistically reveal itself on the court. I think of Micah. He typically plays a game with a lot of spin, so that's different than say playing with you or playing with Becky, your wife, who may play with some power or some touch compared to Micah's game. Or my son Noah absolutely prefers the back line and just wants to stay there, and so. You can allows his teammate to play mid to front, no volley zone, and just enjoys playing that because he feels more comfortable back there. So, I think those things are going to continue to progress and play themselves out as the game grows and ages.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I think that's actually could be quite effective, especially like a one up, one back. I think as you have somebody who is quick and somebody who maybe two quick players, one who's quick in the back, one who's quick in the front. You have a little bit more poaching going on. You can be a little bit more aggressive with that. I see sometimes like the Waters, they are the ones who do like an ISO formation or a one up, one back for serving and whatnot. So it's definitely something that you are starting to see a variety of strategies, which I think is great. But totally agree. We're starting to learn each one's nuances and understanding how to play them. And obviously I think that's what happens with the pros, right? You're playing Tyler and Ben. I imagine they play quite a bit in tournaments, and you start to see each person's idiosyncrasies and each person's tendencies to be able to play their game and what shot they might try to hit based on the position they're at.
Yeah, to continue to mix the sport analogies, if you go, the second year rookie quarterback sensation in the NFL typically has a downturn. So if he has a fantastic rookie year, it's because he's brand new and there's not a lot of quote unquote tape on him. But that second year, defensive coordinators have had all year to analyze his tendencies, and they've now can game plan toward his strengths. And I think as again, we'll see that as the game ages and we continue to play more, not only with one another, but also just broadly as the game grows, we'll be able to see those tendencies in players and in the game that lead to success and those that don't.
Yep, absolutely. So bringing it to our community some more, what specific things did you glean from the numbers that you're like, man, I'm going to do that more often?
Yeah, I think for me, it's really letting go of that third shot drop fixation. At least for me, thinking through that, like being comfortable with hitting a third shot drive and allowing that to get me to a good court position is okay. I'm not violating an unspoken law of the game, and so that was something that I want to think about. I think the other, just from watching the match that I want to bring is the court positioning adjusting. And I don't know if that's just from these two, each of these teams playing together so often, but there is just an unspoken movement between them in terms of how they are aware of one another's court positioning. And so I'd like to figure out how to grow that. I mean, obviously it's going to come with playing more, but maybe playing more with a specific partner to compensate that, or just to grow into awareness of that.
And I know you mentioned that there's more than just the numbers, I imagine, with these guys, right? Because I look at these numbers and think, well, if you look at Tyler's, kills to unforced errors ratio, and Ben's kills to unforced ratio errors, like match made in heaven. Like, dude, they dominate.
Yep.
But I think there's more than just the stats of the game that have an impact in watching the actual match.
Yep. Yeah, I think the brothers' communication and fluid movement together was something, that they'd benefit from, just from their familial relationship and time spent together, right? Like that is a thing in sports. Good. You think of the great partnerships across the board, whether it's men's beach volleyball or the women's Olympic beach volleyball team that played for, I can't think of their names right now, but just I think it was 3 or 4 Summer Olympics that they went to and just dominated, and just that partnership, that unspoken thing that happens between athletes when they partner together
for long periods of time. Just to, again, they know each other better than probably anyone else who's even watching the tape.
Yeah. I mean, Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson. I mean, they just had it. They had it down.
That is so true. Oh man, that's a great. I would say for me, looking at the match and looking at the numbers, I think Phil from last week, he talked a little bit about it, and I think even the week before on our podcast, he talked about playing the middle of the court. And I think there is a benefit to playing, I would even say playing like the middle 80% versus just the actual middle kind of splitting down the line. I don't see these guys too often trying to take risks to try and work the ball. And really what I've been noticing and me trying to do that is I don't have the touch to do that. Yeah. Like I know what I want to do, and the ball just does not react off the paddle like I would expect it to very often. Yeah. Like
is that tennis? I was just gonna say, is that just a tennis vibe that hasn't been adjusted quite yet to the pickleball, or is that just learning the pickleball?
I would definitely say it's a tennis. Like I feel like I had a lot more touch, a lot more control, and it's probably because the strings would either absorb or the strings would be active, right? I feel like I have a little bit more touch with the rebound of the strings based on what I wanted it to do. Yeah, and I just don't. I mean, I'm sure. Again, I'm not 5.0 or anywhere near that. So I'm sure it has to do with my skill level. But actually, I played this this afternoon with my in-laws who are here. So yeah, dude, you totally, I think we're kind of play on Saturday if you want to head this way and come join us before my son's birthday party with my family.
Nice.
Yeah. So we played this afternoon and yesterday afternoon, and I was just trying some shots because, again, I'm the best player of the four of us who are playing. And so,
Yep.
being 100%, being aggressive, trying to actually, put all in, basically would be no fun for anyone. So
Right.
I try to play different shots. Like I was working on the third shot drop, which I failed multiple times, and I tried hitting angles with it, and I could not for the life of me get the angles to do what I wanted to do 9 out of 10 times. So
Yeah. Yep.
playing that and then thinking about what I saw with this match really clicked for me in saying I should probably be less aggressive in terms of that and look at how to play more conservative with intentionality.
Yep. I would agree. I think that's been a thing I've been thinking about lately is playing with a softer paddle, and not needing to kill it every single time, and just, again, chasing the ace or chasing the kill, but allowing the game to come to me, and then being able to stay focused, stay within myself, and nail that opportunity, but not feel like I have to chase it with every swing, because these are the pros, and that's not the way they were playing. They waited for the opponent's mistake, or they waited for the shot to come too high above the net, and then they chased the kill, but they weren't looking for it at every single swing of the paddle.
Correct. It's that nemesis thing called patience.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's something that I know you mentioned in a previous podcast of, not liking me to let off on the throttle, or you feel like, I hit these shots and then I played something nice and easy. And really that's part of what I will try to do, is to throw you off balance a little bit so that I can then be a bit more effective on either the next shot or the next serve or whatever.
Yeah.
So I totally get what you're saying. It's making sure you're being effective with every shot and being intentional with every shot and trying to be.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, if there's a kill shot down the middle, I'm hitting that with speed and force. But I think what I mean by soft paddle is hitting the right shot at the right time, and knowing what that shot is, or thinking through, again, all of those things that we've been talking about the last few episodes together, the focus, the paying attention, and the intentionality, and the patience, culminating in every point or in every shot. That's, again, something that was just fun to watch in the match that we discussed.
Final thoughts here. Any final thoughts on the match, on what we can glean from it?
Yeah, I think that there's hope for all pickleball players. While these guys played exceptional and they played really, really well, there wasn't anything like, referenced Michael Jordan, LeBron James at the beginning of our talk, but there wasn't anything LeBron James-esque. They played more like Steph Curry plays basketball, where it's every man could play the game that they played in that video. So for me, to hope for all pickleballers out there, no matter what skill level you are, there's room to grow, and the game, the game can be played at a level that is excellent, that doesn't feel like you have to be, star, super crazy athlete to get to.
Yep.
How about for you, David?
I totally agree. I look at them and I'm sure they make it look easy, and I'm sure it's not easy, and I'm sure they have shots that I would totally mess up on, right? I mean, I have a tendency to put the ball up in the air too high, which, then I'm sure they would, again, take that opportunity to shove that ball right back down my throat. But the game itself and what they play looks attainable.
Yes. Yes. I could do that.
I feel like, yes, I really feel like there's a chance.
Yeah,
which
you're
is
telling me
terrible.
there's a chance.
which I think is not great. I don't know. I guess it's nice to have hope, to think that you could. Really, I think it boils down to I don't know how good I am in pickleball. So I like to think that if I played enough and I practiced enough, which I don't do, but if I did, I could be somewhere in the mid tiers of of somewhere.
Yeah, I would agree. I think as we grow and get better, it's time to test those waters intentionally, right? You want maybe a local tournament or a local competition and see where we're at, and just kind of test ourselves. I think that day's coming.
I agree. I think that we're gonna have to make the jump to the deep end of the pool.
That's right. I'm ready. I'll get my floaties.
I would say get my little ring floaty thing that goes around my belly, but that might not work because I might like a bobber and flip upside down.
All right. Hope for the pickleballer.
Yeah. Hope for the pickleballer. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to listen. Thanks for all those who joined us here. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the court.
Yes, sir. See you out there. Thanks, David.
Yep.